really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. Top 14 PROD2, Nationale, the French national team, the Champions Cup and Challenge Cups, and most importantly of all, the brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, people, fans, stadia, everything that makes the French rugby experience the thing we know and love. Rob, we're a little bit later in the week, slightly, bit of life getting in the way. I'm not sounding too fresh, picked up a bit of man flu, bit of COVID. Don't know what it is, but yeah, just a little bit tickly. But how are you? You've made it back in one piece in Paris?
Made it back in one piece. Not with all my items, I have to say, and only just in one piece as well. Just been questioning life the last few days. Full existential meltdown just in life. But yeah, I'm alive, and I feel a little bit more human today.
That's good to know.
But, yeah.
Good to know. A few too many Jet Vancettes and foie gras and cheese and stuff.
Yeah, quite a lot of cheese. Quite a lot of Heineken as well, let's be honest, on Saturday.
Yeah, fair play. Cool. Well, as reported, we were both fortunate enough to be in Paris for France versus the Springboks. It's obviously, it's a little bit later in the week than we'd usually record this. So yeah, if you haven't been, if you haven't been living under a rock, France succumbed fairly comfortably in the end to the Boks. What score? 32-17?
32-17, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll start, maybe, before we talk about that, let's get into the more exciting stuff. Any new finds in Paris? Any new recommendations for the listeners, or a few old favourite haunts? A couple of favourite haunts. Found a new craft brewery in Montmartre, which is quite cool. Recommended to me by someone at an engagement drinks the other week, and then we found it. That's good. Oh, nice.
Found a really cool wine bar that looked really cool and didn't have any space. That's a learning that you do actually still need to book places in Paris. Even though some places have queues like backing out for down the street, you do still need to book some places. A few nice new coffee shops, a few new bakeries. The thing I found, because we were there Monday as well, Sunday, Monday, I found that it's just so cool everywhere. You can kind of stumble across something really good, basically anywhere. I think we got a takeaway bottle of wine each, and it was like €8 for one and €13 for another from the shop in Pigalle. And it's just like, that's just so cheap. And it was all so good. One place we did go for, I'm going to have to find it. Since you asked me, I'm not going to just go wishy-washy. One place we did find, so in Montmartre, there's a really cool bakery, like in the traditional sense, did some really, really dirty, cheesy, bacony numbers as well on Sunday. That's called Pan Pan, spelt pain, which is what we were, but Pan Pan. And there's a place called Soul and Spirit of Wine, which is not what it's called. It's actually called Âme et Esprit du Vin. But for some reason, Google comes up with Soul and Spirit of Wine. We had a lovely couple of glasses of wine there, and of course, the mandatory mixed platter on Saturday afternoon before going on to more glasses of wine and more mixed platters. On at Cap des Abbesses, which is our favourite place. Yeah,
Henry VIII stuff for a couple of days.
Some really wanky natural wine as well. But yeah, Cab des Abbesses, the mix, the Grand mix there, unbeatable. But Âme et Esprit du Wine, the guy was really friendly as well.
Nice.
And that was quite relative, kind of Pigalle, Montmartre sort of area. Yeah. How about you?
Well, we were very fleeting, Charlie and I, as you know. So we were very much in and out. We went for lunch.
I think you've got better recommendations because you went to places that possibly more of this to our listenership might be interested in, which was places you could go and watch rugby in Paris. So where did you go?
We started off, had a bit of lunch near Les Halles, and then we got out the train station. First person we saw, Louis Picamole, which was quite fun. But yeah,
how did you get to Charles de Gaulle?
Yeah.
We got a taxi for like €30, which between two of us was basically like, it was like, in fact, no, I think it was like about €1 more than if we'd bought tickets, and it was the same time.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
Uber was
reasonable.
really cheap this weekend. I've got no idea why, but yeah, another
Interesting.
recommendation for Paris. Don't
So
bother with it.
we were kind of around. I'm not actually sure what the area is called, but if you're sort of just south of Notre Dame, almost like not too far back from the river. So yeah, we had a quick beer. We're basically doing the sort of like rugby lads tourist. Well, it wasn't about tourist, but rugby lads route of the Great Canadian, which was quite a cool sports bar. Lots of Canada merch, including a sort of circa 2006 Cougar Canada rugby shirt on the wall,
Nice.
and a lot of ice hockey swag as well. Went in there, they were selling Adnams, which is extraordinary given, well, Adnams is my sort of hometown brew and is, you see it a fair bit, but you don't see too many pubs wall to wall Adnams, not even in London. And yeah, as far as I can tell, this was a Canadian Adnams pub just along the banks of the Seine, which was quite good fun. Went down a little bit further to I actually can't remember what it was called. It was like an Irish pub which was full of like South African fans. So slipped in there for one. Had a demi at a pub called I think it was Bar Saint Germain, which is very near the Moose, which is where we watched the first game of the 2023 World Cup. And then we snuck in there, big screen, to watch Scotland's brave, valiant effort against
Valiant. You're not allowed
against
to use the word brave.
against
We're
against the
banning
All
the word brave
Blacks.
for Scotland performances.
And yeah, they also had a little bit of La Rochelle Toulon on in the
Ah,
background,
nice.
which was fun. So yeah, it was good. Not too aggressive, but pretty good fun.
You didn't nip into the place with the butter block on the bar
No, we were going
because
to,
that
but
is near
we
the Moose.
it is, yeah, l'avant comptoir de la terre, and I think there's
Yeah,
de la mer as well, which is the
yeah.
seafood brother sister. No, we didn't. We in the end made a bit of an early exit to the ground, to try and watch a bit of England Fiji as well. I think we
Was
decided
that on
because
in the ground?
no, there was a bar outside that you could sort of they had like one outdoor screen. Yeah, I think we decided because we were there for such a short amount of time, we were just gonna cram in as much rugby as possible. When it was, all pretty good fun, all told. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like bashing Paris has become quite a popular thing for people over the years. Like, oh, it's massively overpriced. It's a shithole, and yeah, don't get me wrong. There are obviously rough parts and there are expensive parts, but I've never not had a brilliant time. So
Tell you
yeah,
what is expensive in Paris? Coffee. Like you're looking at, maybe it was Montmartre, and maybe it was my tendency to go to the most pretentious looking coffee place you can find, but
yeah, I reckon it's that.
more like yeah, regularly over €5 for a coffee, but quite often six,
No, really,
which is
that
like
is
quite a
that is
lot.
quite punchy.
But then wine and food is dirt cheap. It's still way cheaper than London. So, and maybe we're biased by living in London, but I think it's still better value for money than quite a lot of places. It is more expensive than the rest of France, Paris, but yeah. I also found like there's just so much. I've been to Paris the last couple of years for the autumn internationals. I don't think I've got near the Seine, let alone south of it, and still seen so much. So yeah, there's just so much. It's kind of, I guess it's one of the great capital cities of the world. There's going to be loads of stuff, but there's so many places that I haven't seen in Paris, which I kind of still want to explore,
Yeah,
but even without all the touristy bits. So
plenty of good reason to go back. So yeah, the rugby itself. I mean, we're sort of 4 days now post what was in the end a pretty remarkable win. I don't know if it's possible to say too much that hasn't already been covered, but what are your kind of initial thoughts as to what was ultimately a pretty heavy defeat, for the French?
well, I think I've spent quite a lot of my my last few days replying to, or not replying, but reading comments on TikTok from South African fans who seem to have missed the point that I'm actually English, part of them, but also just a lot of them saying that, yeah, like what was the score? And
Your boys took one hell of a beating. That sort of
basically
vibe.
that box of
Nice.
the champions, box of the best. What was the score? They weren't laughing afterwards. I saw them all leaving, that sort of thing. This game has, I think, for a while got worse in my mind the further I got away from it. And then I kind of rewatched it, and I don't know, it's kind of, it was compelling. Like in the ground, it was incredibly compelling, and the atmosphere was amazing. And then, like the cold light of day, and with a bit of time, it was actually fairly one-sided throughout, I think. Which I think,
I don't know.
from the brief memory I've got of our chat on Saturday evening, which is minimal, we I think you were kind of saying, or it was close for 60 minutes, and then it was an onslaught for 20. But I think it wasn't a classic by any stretch. I think the actual quality of rugby from a entertainment perspective and from a actual quality accuracy perspective, I think was relatively, for these two sides, low, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I think Elgin Alderman, obviously friend of the pod, was talking about it on the Times podcast, and I think he summed it up pretty well in that it's well, from a South African perspective, it was a incredible and kind of momentous performance, but won't go down as an all-time classic, because essentially they were too good in the last 15 to 20 minutes. I think it was incredible. Well, it was compelling watching throughout, but it was compelling and tense pretty much up to the point that Feinberg on Ngomazulu hit the post, and that kind of, it still felt that there was something in it for France. And I think in terms of the quality, I think you're probably right in that both teams, certainly for the first hour, were a bit inaccurate. I think particularly kicking out of hand and some of the handling from the French was essentially what I think kind of killed them. The inability to make the most of the man advantage in the first 20 minutes of the second half. There's a couple that go to deck, aren't there?
Yeah.
Well, actually, and in the first half as well, there's a pass that I think Penno's a bit flat and Fiku puts it behind him, and it was just, those were the sort of,
that was when the momentum was really with them. I think if he finds Penno there, I think Penno can get down the wing and they can make real yards, and I think they get properly in behind. Then that's the one that I think of, and then the BLBRA inside ball to Penno that again is just slightly behind him. It's probably on BLBRA, that one, but
there's a little ball as well when from that big Roman Tau puts on the deck that Flamel basically puts on his shins.
Yeah,
and that was
6'6" bloke to get down to his shins,
and that was, you're probably talking momentum 5-10 out. Those were the chances for France, and it's a strange one actually, because I looked at some of the stats afterwards, and you're so used to these days in these big test matches seeing, somebody like a Peter Steph the Toy has made 21 tackles, or like a Boudon's done that, or made 15 plus carries, and there was none of that in terms of the numbers in the game, which I think probably talks to how fractured it was, how messy it was, and I guess what a good job I think in particular South Africa did at spoiling at the breakdown and really slowing ball down.
Do you know why there probably weren't no stats?
Why is that?
Because they both kicked the leather off it.
Well, they did, yeah.
There was I don't think France really showed much in attack at all. I was really disappointed with France's attack, given I think it probably stems from the quality of South Africa's defence, both in terms of their organisation, but also the fact that France were just kind of being stopped dead on the gain line. But for South Africa, can we get it out of the way? Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu should not have been man of the match. No, that is an absolute disgrace. And I think
that was fairly universal as well.
You mentioned it to me on Saturday night, and it was like, no way. And then the more watching it back, I kind of thought, was Richard lying to me on Saturday night? Because there is just no way that he's the best player on the pitch. And I think, to be fair, afterwards, I watched a tiny, tiny bit of the post-match, and it was James O'Connor and David Flatman. James O'Connor was kind of like, he probably wasn't as great. Some of the kicks in the middle of the park weren't as accurate as they could be. Like, you could tell James O'Connor's like, he wasn't great. And then Flats said, if you've watched 10 of his last 10 games, that was probably his 10th best one, which I think also probably sums it up. He was
But I think that's the.
He was just not good. The only thing that he did
there were a couple of moments,
was the try is obviously good. There's the odd element where I did think there's a kind of in the stadium. I kind of went into this not having seen loads of him. I was looking forward to seeing him play, and like there was a crackle of expectation whenever he got the ball, in the same way that guys like that in the past have had it. But I think the accuracy of his kicking from hand was dreadful, like absolutely dreadful. That's in another game, if South Africa lose that, and they obviously didn't, so it's completely, the narrative goes to the winners. South Africa lose that, you're looking at this young fly half absolutely had a shocker because he was slicing every kick. He missed touch loads, especially from penalties. He missed a number of points, which were hard. Dan Bigger said that, like there weren't, none of them were easy, but if and he kept saying, Dan Bigger on commentary, if you come back to that, at the end of the game, it could be 2 points in it, and we could be looking back on that.
I think there's probably at least 7 South African players.
Like Ryanak was, Ryanak was the game breaker, and I think the fact that when he scores that try, that keeps South Africa in the game. Because that is 14-6 at that point.
Yeah.
South Africa have been, I think by then it was something like 60% possession and territory for France almost, which is a lot in the kind of what we expected. And that is a moment of magic from Cobus Ryanak. It's also how the composure he has to put the ball down is incredibly underrated, I think. I thought Malcolm Marx was fantastic.
Yeah,
to play basically full 80. Jasper Wiese played the full 80, I think, and was the more the game went on, the better he got, which as a guy with that amount of work rate and that role is fantastic. I thought Ruan Nortje was really good off the bench. I thought
both Nortje and Snyman were unbelievable off the bench. Yeah, I think if you're a South African player, you're like, obviously, I think we've seen it once or twice before, haven't we, in like the sort of DuPont hype cycle where it's like, well, if they win, DuPont's man of the match, we don't need to really think too much about it. Yeah, I think it was a generous man of the match to put it mildly. But yeah, they were.
I've got that off my chest.
I think I
feel like a weight off my shoulders now.
I think one of the two things maybe before we go through a few of the potential problems or otherwise for France, I think one thing talking about South Africa that stood out to me was I've seen a few comments that it never felt in doubt for South Africa, which I agree with to an extent, but I don't think that necessarily is reflective of the kind of flow of play for the first hour. I think the thing that I saw Rassie Erasmus say afterwards was, a few people have said the group's getting a bit older and things, and one of the things that he put praise on is he kind of said they're a bit wiser, which is a bit of an obvious one to pull out, but calmer. And I think that really came through in terms of there was so much clarity in what they were trying to do. They didn't make those, we've probably called out like 3 quite big errors, either like that would have led to a line break or just after a line break for France, that feel like they come a little bit from just being a tiny bit, not scrambled, but a bit rushed in what they're doing in their execution. And there just wasn't any of that from South Africa. And that combined with the physicality, obviously the substitutions were chalk and cheese in terms of impact. I think that was a kind of fascinating thing from afar.
The one thing I mentioned that I was having to read through comments on TikTok videos. I did a kind of post-match debrief, which is unsurprisingly not massively coherent, but a few things I said on that were was about the refereeing. Now, the headline news is South Africa got a red card, which could have been an orange, and France had a yellow card that should have been a penalty try. Yes, I agree with. I think I thought live and in the stadium, I thought the Diago red was harsh. But having seen it again, he's fallen foul of the arm tucked, always illegal, therefore no mitigation factor. The BLBRA try, once they give it as a yellow, should be a penalty try. Or sorry, the BLBRA yellow card, as soon as they give it as yellow, I think should be a penalty try. My point there on it being harsh is that it's just a rubbish rule. That his touch makes no difference, I don't think, to the path of the ball. And I think Jesse Creel just drops it. And therefore... to get a yellow card for that, it's cynical, I
Well,
guess. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't want to go into the yellow card debate, but yeah, I think in general play rub of the green, I think South Africa massively get the decisions, and there's a few. There's a high tackle from Penno, which is soft as a penalty, which gives them the territory for that BLBRA yellow card. That then the next try, so they all come. Well, I think generally they're in the kind of last few. They're in the second half, most of them. But I think there was some very very technical, technical penalties, and I think they generally went in South Africa's favour, which is what happens when you are the more physically dominant team. There is a kind of scrum that, but Aldegiri's first scrum, Bernfenter's knee drops the floor and Angus Gardner says play away, which is just incorrect in every scrummaging. But then Aldegiri gets done on the next one. So and then I think there's a Malcolm Marks penalty where it's just so clearly hands beyond the ball first. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just getting it off my chest, but I think I guess the overall point there, to kind of rather than just complaining about refereeing decisions, is kind of what I was getting at in terms of responding to you saying it was pretty comfortable. I think it felt like France, even though they had all the territory in possession, felt like France was still clinging on in that first half.
Yeah, I know
and
what you mean.
That is probably why, whether it was because South Africa were getting the rub of the green at the breakdown and other areas of the pitch, there is Valenza takes Fiku, I think it is, out in the air that is almost identical to the one and gets waved away. There is almost identical to one that off the kickoff where Fiku takes out Etzebeth. So it's stuff like that where like the flip of a coin, it lands on South Africa's side. And I don't know whether it was because they were on top or they felt like they were on top because of those decisions.
Yeah,
an interesting piece to consider.
Maybe I watched it back, so I think there's maybe, as you say, rub of the green, but I don't think this is one where you can point to
I don't think it changes
having a particularly big impact at all.
No.
And at the scrum, I mean, they are like, it was a worry for France coming in, and I mean they arguably even more in the first half. They kind of got dusted, didn't they? They pulled Bowen Venter off after half an hour, which seemed extraordinary because he was giving Regis Montaigne no end of problems. And actually, I think they lost a little bit of momentum in the scrum after that, very briefly.
Yeah.
But there is no doubt that the front row seems to be a pretty big problem for France. And actually,
a word for would have been Steenkamp
on by that point.
Giri, yeah.
Actually, a word for Julian Marchand. You mentioned Malcolm Marks. Marchand was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And obviously, hindsight's 2020. But you look at what Malcolm Marks did, and he said they wanted to go after a young, inexperienced hooker, at least at international level. And maybe it wouldn't have made a difference because I don't think Cramore had a poor game by any stretch when he came on.
It was pretty good.
But yeah, I think Marchand was probably the standout in the French pack for me. But yeah, did we want to just briefly talk about? I mean, you can only read so much from one game. South Africa are an extraordinary side. I think that's sort of run out of platitudes. But from a French perspective, any areas that you now see as very problematic, or
just you mentioned there that Marchand was your kind of standout player. I picked up a copy of Midi Olympique. Their highest scorer with 6 out of 10 was Anthony Gelonche. There's a few 5.5 out of 10, which were Boudon, Penno, Le Garrec. Ramos was 5 out of 10. Marchand was 4.5 out of 10.
They are famously quite aggressive on their markings, aren't they?
Yeah. Who were your 5-star? Well, no, I don't think anyone was 5-star. Who are your 4-star players? Marchand, which I agree with. I think Ramos was excellent.
Yeah,
but he is so good. He was magical in that first half.
He was great. Although I think as a back three, that side do struggle more under the high ball than the rest of elite teams, which is a problem. I think. Yeah, I think Penno, opportunist, can't really complain too much. I thought both
good generally.
Yeah, he was. Still like to see him off his wing a bit more because I think he's more powerful than people give him credit for through traffic. I thought both Flamand and Meafu had pretty decent games.
Meafu got 3.5 in Midi.
I think that's nonsense.
I think that's fair.
No, watching back, I thought he was. I don't think he was as totemic as he sometimes is, but I think he actually carried fairly well through traffic when he got opportunities to. Was quite good at the ruck, counter
Yeah, that's true.
rucking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone
Which
else?
is he is very good at, and that's what he brings to Toulouse. I just think he should
I
have
just thought in
offered
the
more ball in hand.
yeah. I mean, you could say that for pretty much everyone. I actually thought Gael Fico had a decent first half and then dropped off a little bit more than you'd like him to. Yeah,
I'm amazed Legarrette got such a strong score. I thought
he was tidy.
Some of his box, given the amount of kicking that went on, maybe it's just law of averages, but I think some of his kicking was pretty poor.
Bit long.
And I think too long. Like it was compared to Rhynak. And I am wearing my UBB jumper in solidarity because that is how I would like France to go next week.
Yeah.
I think I thought Roman Entomac was really poor. I know that's not news that I'm going to get the knives out for Entomac, but I think the point on Ramos is that he looked so calm and Entomac didn't. And then I think it's kind of encapsulated at the end by Entomac kind of getting skinned by
giving up.
He's not really. It doesn't look like he's really trying, but by getting done by Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu when that's actually ironically that's quite a Entomac-esque try as well.
Yeah,
and I thought and his kicking wasn't great. He didn't look very.
I think that was the main thing for me was his kicking out of hand was. I don't think France. I think France's kicking game seemed a bit in between for me because they've traditionally kicked it really long, haven't they? And I guess they didn't want to do that to Willemse, Aronse, Colby, which is fair enough. But then either they didn't execute that well, they're not the best under the high ball regardless, and I don't think their kick chase was particularly good. So I think there's a little bit of the wider thing, but I'd agree. I think there was particularly I think towards the end of the second half, the end of the first half, there were a couple of really aimless kicks from Entomac at a point where they didn't have loads of momentum,
they were kind of landing in front of us.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend was kind of like, they keep kicking it down here. Why do they keep doing it? And I kind of had to explain, like, they're probably doing it this way more than the other side because even though they're both short, this winger is not as renowned in the air. So like a Curtly Aron's, they wanted to keep it away from Colby, I think was part of it. But also like, why were they kicking it so much?
Yeah.
I think their attack generally is, we've said it before, perhaps more pertinently in the 2024 Six Nations, but without Dupont, it can look at times very bad.
And I think without
it's unstructured in a bad way.
I think without an out-and-out carrier at 12 in either Dante previously, Moafana had a really good Six Nations, didn't he? It feels, I don't know, that kind of Fiku Barassi feels a bit samey.
That's exactly what one of my concerns was they are too similar, a bit too samey, and I think the back row, I think Guillard and Boudon in Midi Olympique, they've got Guillard and Boudon like kind of good despite the defeat, and then literally on the same page, it's like Oliver and Aldrit to return against Fiji.
Yeah,
I think
Guillard's out injured, isn't he?
Yeah, and actually, I think Guillard had a pretty anonymous game, but he did pit that. He's out with a shoulder injury, and he was down holding his shoulder on like the 25th minute. So I wonder if that played into it. I think when you think of the France good back rows down in recent years, they will have had one of Olivon, Woki, or even, dare I say, Makalu in it. And
I was thinking this.
I think given the options they've got available to them, I think they should go for one of these quicker back rows because it just looks a little bit undynamic. And we saw the impact of Jegu's pace in terms of charge downs when he came on.
Yeah, agreed.
I think they need a quicker back row, and even like Toulouse have pace in that pack that helps them out, whether it's from Malvaca or guys like Rumat or even Willis has a speed of his own type. They don't have that in that current back row.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I would like to see Olivon or Woki. I guess those are the fit options, or Jegu start
Makalu
before you even get on to like Kapir and Makalu.
If you need a guy who's beaten, he was part of that side, didn't he? That beat them in Marseille, played on the wing and the back row. Yeah, he's the man. He was in Cape Town actually on holiday, ironically.
Was he?
Yeah, it's like the opposite of the so Ollie Robinson's playing cricket in like grade cricket in Sydney.
Yeah.
Might get a call up. It's like the opposite of that, going as far away as possible, but letting them know that you're let them know you're there. I agree with that completely in the back row. I think you need a bit more. Dynamism's a cliche, I think, but pace.
I think I would like to see the changes I'd like to see would be probably Jagu coming in for. Well, I guess he just moves your launch to 8, right? And
I would have thought so.
And then Jagu comes in on the flank. I think the props are obviously a concern. I think even Gross wasn't that fantastic, but I think Adosio and Montagna looked out their depth, which is hardly surprising. I would have liked to see Luku come in because of the kicking, and I think they need a bit more direction and a bit more control, which they didn't get from either Legaric or Entomac. And I would like to see Depp or Ter come in for one of Fiku and Barassi, which, let's be honest, is probably going to be Barassi if you're going to go for anyone. Yeah. Any other changes you'd like?
No, I'd like to see Kapir on the bench for Fiji. I think that would make sense.
When they brought Oradu on, just didn't make sense. But if they were going to bring him on,
Galtier's
they should have done it 5-10 minutes before.
Galtier's done it a few times now with Oradu. I'm not convinced that it doesn't seem to be the man in that 6-2 split. Because I think
they should have brought him on when they were getting an onslaught of line-outs in their own 22. Yeah. That could have made a difference. Yeah. Because they didn't challenge the South African line-out at all.
Seemed a bit questionable, didn't it? Cool. All right. Well, on to Bordeaux, on to Fiji. Should be pretty good fun, given some of Fiji's rugby against England as well. They were pretty impressive. Back in a set to round off the lower leagues and some Petit-Fours. All right, Rob. PROD2, some points on the board. It's fair to say.
You've missed someone off, Rich. Top 14.
Oh, well, I did mention it was on earlier. Yeah, okay. I did mention Toulon, as expected, relatively comfortable.
I thought the La Rochelle team. I know you said Roger was complaining the other week. It was fine. Skelton played.
Yeah, I think. Skelton's now injured, I think.
Is he?
I think that may have come out of it. Yeah. I mean, to be expected. Toulon now second in the league.
Joint top. Yeah.
Joint top.
Yeah, which I think is probably a fair reflection. Not that they've been
I think so.
Far and away the best, but I think because they've been as good as Toulouse, which I think is fair. But we now have one full break of top 14. But as you mentioned, PROD2, Rich. Go for it.
PROD2. Some blowouts, I think it's fair to say, in this one. Poor old Mont de Marsan could not continue their their sort of giant killing sweep, albeit away. This was away from home. 68-10 to Brive, but I think it was 42-0 at the end of the first half. So they've sort of, I don't know. There's some sort of comeback or other there to not basically concede 100 at Brive, maybe keep some of the feet away from the flames for the Brive management from the fans and board, because things haven't been too happy there. So that might just settle things down for another week before they go to Béziers next week. Other big scores: Oyonnax 50-21 at home to Angoulême. Valence Romain.
Two seasons in a row, they've conceded 50 away at Oyonnax.
Is it?
Yeah, I remember that because that was like one of the big wins for Oyonnax when they were really bad last year. They just randomly put 50 on Angoulême. Yeah, that's
in one of the bars we were in on Saturday. There was a bloke in an Oyonnax jacket who was, without a shadow of a doubt, the most drunk person in the room. Him and his mate were on some sort of like pub crawl, and we were speaking to some South African fans, and the universal agreement was that they were not making the game. There was no way they were making it to 9 p.m. After he basically spilt a pint over about 4 of us, and then picked up his jacket and it had the Oyonnax crest on it, which was quite funny. What was the other big blowout? 53-22 Valence against the LAC.
Valence didn't score a point in the set. Valence didn't score a point in the set in the last 20 minutes. So it's 53 points in just under an hour.
Not bad going. And I suppose the most noteworthy results. So Provence beat Colomiers. Colomiers obviously have been fantastic. Provence sent a pretty decent side, and they've now, well, a team that have been a bit iffy on the road for quite a while. They've now beaten Grenoble and Colomiers, which suggests they're in a pretty good place. And if I'm not mistaken, Vannes lost 22-13 to Nevers. First game they haven't picked up a point this season.
Sounds about right.
Which is pretty good go for Nevers. Biarritz beat Agen, Dax nilled Carcassonne 90-0. And then the Thursday night game, Rob, was Grenoble Béziers. Caught a little bit of this one.
Yeah, just on that, Dax are now off bottom after that on points difference and presumably the head-to-head, and wins because that makes sense because they were on -5, so they are level on 12 points with Carcassonne, who are now bottom, and they're actually Dax's points difference isn't nearly as bad as Mont-de-Marsan, Soissons-Angoulême, Carcassonne, who are all -100 or more. There's I don't know, Angoulême in the relegation battle, or do you think it's a four-way battle between Béziers, Stade, Pontoise, Dax, and Carcassonne?
I'm not saying anything. There's 20 more games to go.
That is a good point. The Thursday game last week was Grenoble hosting Béziers, who didn't pick up any points, so they've kind of, their poor start to the season continues. Grenoble, but I think they played pretty well. They may have only scored 8 points, but the fact that they kind of kept Grenoble to 23 points shows that they defended well. I don't think it was, we've seen Grenoble be a bit sticky this season, and I don't think this was that. I think this was more that Béziers came really up for it and took it to Grenoble, and it was just two teams defending pretty well and just being a little bit careless in attack. But having asked you to call the relegation battle after 10 games, I also think even though Grenoble are 5 wins out of 10, they are in 8th, and I think that's absolutely fine. I think they will still be up there come the end of the season, because I think also, I was thinking, what was it? It's now 3 seasons ago. No, it was the middle one that they lost 2 seasons ago. They were on -6, weren't they? So they still had to come from behind then, and they hit a real good run of form in the kind of last 10 games that catapulted them into a home barrage game. And so I don't think there's any concerns for Grenoble. And I think knowing that they kind of held off early season, and they've got so many players out injured that aren't available.
Massive injury.
Obviously noticeable. Sam Davis, but Romain Trouillou hasn't played for weeks. And quite a few of their pack as well, like Madeira is unavailable at the moment with Portugal. Yeah, I think there's plenty to come back.
Yeah, definitely. Grenoble will be in action, as has been their want this season, on the new FRUK channel live, but it'll be on Sunday evening. Not the first time that Vannes have played in a game, not on a Thursday or Friday. I think that the first game against Brive was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. But Vannes, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, have sold out Rojon Park in Rennes, just shy, a couple of heads shy of 30,000 for their Sunday night game against Grenoble. It should be an amazing occasion. It's pretty remarkable the appetite for rugby clearly in Brittany, and what Vannes are doing as a club. Is this the opportunity for a side? Vannes have been utterly imperious at home. Is this the opportunity away from the Rabine for a team to pick up a win? I'm thinking probably not.
I'm kind of expecting it to be like the Rabine on steroids, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think it could be like absolutely. I'm a little bit sad.
Super Rabine.
I don't know why. I kind of assumed it being a Sunday, it'd be an afternoon game. I kind of think it should be, but I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? They go mad whenever. And Sunday evening should be fine. You thought last week that I think we both went for Nevers in the predictions at home to Vannes, because we thought that Vannes might go a little bit weaker with that in mind, but they actually sent quite a strong.
Yeah.
Mako Vinopola played, Dave Cherry played. I think that's interesting. Tokola played at 15 actually. I think they will go pretty. Well, they're obviously going to go strong, but I think Vannes will have too much. I mean, I'm interested to see what Grenoble take in terms. I really, really hope they don't just throw in the towel. That's another element to it, like, because we've seen that teams have done that with Van already this season, just not really bothering to send a strong side. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I'm excited to see Rojon Park. I'm excited to watch this game. I think it should be. It's like, if you're looking for a game pre-season that was going to be the biggest game of the season, it was either that first game that was on FR UK that was the Saturday night, Breed versus Van, or it was Grenoble versus Van, because this could have easily been an access match to the top 14 last year. So, and it was a final 2 years ago, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was the PROD2 final at Ernest Vallon.
Yeah.
But sort of, 15, 16 months ago. So, not too far back. Rojon Park, which has hosted some rugby before. It was I'm sure there's been something there since then, but maybe not. The 2016 top 14 semi-finals were both at Rojon Park.
Oh, wow. Oh, that was the year that the final was at the new camp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is, little factoid for you there, Rob. Any other games stand out for you? It looks like quite a good round, actually, this one coming up. There's a few kind of nice matchups, I would suggest.
Colomiers-Nevers is a big game, isn't it?
Colomiers-Nevers big. Aurillac hosting Provence, who have obviously, Aurillac have been very impressive at home. Provence away. Carcassonne, Valence, similar kind of setup. Biarritz-Dax, a little bit of a derby.
Southwest, yeah.
And then Béziers hosting Brive as well, which is, maybe quite nicely poised, particularly if, as you say, Béziers got their act together a little bit more in defence this week, which can only be a good thing for them going forward.
Yeah.
Rob, I realise we're a little bit on the clock here. I'd one call out from Nationale, which is that Bourgoin's winning streak continues, having lost 9 in a row. Bourgoin beat, I forget now, they beat Suresnes. So they are suddenly one of the form sides. 2 on the spin. I believe it's Nice and Narbonne this weekend who are top, which should be, or the top 2.
That's a cracker, isn't it? What day of the week is that?
Oh, I've actually got that wrong.
Saturday
No,
evening.
I haven't. Saturday, at Narbonne.
Oh, that's going to clash with a load of international stuff. I was going to say, otherwise that would be one to watch. But it could be one to watch if you want to, because I imagine that will be streamed somewhere on the internet.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. This Monday night, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Come celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Monday Night Raw, November 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Be there for the moment everyone will be talking about.
I had one Petit-Fours to round us out that was quite good fun.
I got a few random Petit-Fours that aren't of any interest, but the Midi Olympique Oscars were last week.
Yes.
Which I think is their kind of version of La Nuit de Rugby. The gold Oscar went to Thomas Ramos, silver to Maxime Lucu, and bronze to Francois Cross. I think that's kind of overall. I think that's, is it France or is it kind of overall good play? The world Oscar went to Pieter-Steph du Toit. Joanna Grise won gold for the women's. LBB won the Europe Oscar. I assume that's for Champions Cup more than anything else. So. And Leah McCrabb won the Espoir Oscar, which I thought was an interesting shout, but I like that.
Who I believe
I'm not against that.
Just signed the extension at Montpellier. Yeah.
There was also a nice video of Maxime Lucu meeting Nonce Duquang in that. But the man that won the gold medal, I did see there was a documentary on Canal Plus on Sunday night called Point by Point on Thomas Ramos, which I would quite like to watch it. It looked like I'm in a real fanboy zone for Thomas Ramos at the moment. But it looked like quite a cool documentary, to be fair. They like talking through his career and some, like, everyone basically just gushing about him and how good he is, which in my fanboy phase, it's
exactly what you want to hear.
Before we go on to, I'm hoping your Petit-Fours is going to pick us up, but our boys, Soyon Golem, are going to be without one of their main players for a while. given a news story that you saw last week.
Yeah, I think there's a hearing in a few weeks, but it looks like George Tilsley might be spending some time in prison. Previously, I mean, had a few disciplinary issues, I don't know the exact ins and outs of it, but I believe it's for domestic violence, and the court has proposed a 2-year sentence, one suspended. Is the news from there?
Well, I look forward to a 37-year-old George Tilsley turning out for Montpellier alongside Arthur Vanson in a couple of years. That's not a slight on Arthur Vanson, it's just that he's always there. Anyway, pick us up with a little digestif.
So there's Brasserie Lemugoué is a restaurant, I believe, in Toulon, and previously we had Gail Drayan making a very nice curried mussels, and I don't know if this is on the menu, but they basically seem to be doing a partnership with various Toulon players making their little signature dishes. This week it was Brian Alanoese, who makes cooking equipment look quite small, it must be said, wheeling together some sort of pasta dish. Gail Drayan looked, I don't know if you've seen the video of him making his dish, he looks like he knows his way around the kitchen, like knife skills, bit of finesse. Alanoese, a little bit more kind of robust, I'd say, but yeah, still looking pretty good. So
I wonder if Gail Drayan would be at Rojon Park on
possibly
on Sunday, because he presumably be up in Paris, and then he's possibly he's a Brittany boy.
He might be involved in Bordeaux.
Oh, of course, he's not up in Paris. He's going to be in Bordeaux. Yeah.
And then a couple of things. A few guys on their holidays already mentioned. Macalou, looking pretty cool on a moped in Cape Town. Louis Carbonell in some unbelievable drip, I believe is what the youth are saying in New York.
What does that mean? Clothes,
flare clothes. Not just. It's like a sort of like a patterned bright orange, like shiny jacket.
Nice.
Yeah, sort of clobby you can only get away with if you're a professional sportsman. And then the final one is also Toulon related. There was like a Legends match, which I think we called out a few weeks back, like a football rugby Legends match.
Yeah.
And on the score sheet was Sebastian Chabal.
Nice.
Very nice finish from a raking crossfield ball from Dimitri Payet. And Chabal's on the end of it. So yeah, that's to round us off.
I've just remembered something when you were talking about clothes. On the Strictly results show, which I don't know if you've watched this week, Richard, but I was watching last night. No. There was a little interlude for children in need, and they invited a kind of teenager who's part of a inclusive dance group. He struggles with autism, and it was kind of a little mini kind of 3-4 minute video of him getting a tour around Strictly Come Dancing, but he, like behind the scenes, got to meet everyone, which was really heartwarming. So if you're a Strictly fan, I'm sure you've seen it. But there were some photos of him in his youth, and one of the photos he was wearing, he must have been about 4 or 5, wearing a Stade Toulousain beanie.
Oh wow!
I was like, wow, that is random. I was like, he's wearing a Stade Toulousain beanie, and my girlfriend was like, of course you've noticed that.
Very good.
The intersection of some of my great passions, Strictly Come Dancing and Stade Toulousain stash, encapsulated in and obviously charity. Yeah,
fantastic.
You know me. Yeah,
that's awesome. Very good. All right. Well, we'll be back next week. We've got France, Fiji to look forward to. Tune in on Sunday night. FRUK. There's no top 14 unless I'm very much mistaken. So you've got beautiful late night serving of French rugby there. It should be an incredible occasion up in Rennes. In the meantime, follow us, Rosbiff Rugby. Get in touch, rosbiffrugby@gmail.com. Until then, have a nice day at work, Rob, and we will see you all soon. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.